Welcome to Who's in STEM. I'm Ken Ono, your host and the STEM advisor to the Provost and the Marvin Rosenblum Professor of Mathematics at the University of Virginia. Our goal is to evoke flights of imagination and wonder by showcasing the cornucopia of all that is STEM at UVA, the marvelous world of UVA science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Now, this is a special episode, for it's that time of year. Graduation signs and balloons, they sprout in front yards, right? Families and friends gather for garden parties and banquets. I think you know the kind of parties. It's the parties where the folks beam and rubberneck before collages of photos celebrating their graduates, probably lovingly prepared by moms and dads. Think about the poster boards with the baby pic, or the pic from the first day of first grade, the high school sports pic, or maybe the high school band pic, and of course the obligatory prom pic. These are memories of iconic rites of passage, and here at UVA, we're about to celebrate 8,000 new graduates. Yep, roughly 8,000 students, give or take a few, will join the Legion of UVA alumni in a few weeks. Our final exercises are on grounds, and they will be held May 17th and 19th, and it really is an awesome spectacle. Family and friends, all dressed in business casual, will overtake the lawn to celebrate 8,000 moments. Each moment, many years in the making. The moment, it's the sight of their graduate walking the lawn to receive a hard-earned degree from the University of Virginia. On Who's in STEM, we're going to celebrate a wee bit early. This is our graduation celebration. And I gave my student producers, Catherine Cossaboom, Claire Curzan, and Reeya Verma, a genuinely difficult, probably almost impossible task. From these thousands of graduates, I have asked them to identify 4 graduating fourth-year STEM students to showcase, to show off, to share with you in conversation. There's so many amazing students we could choose from, but I wanted them to pick 4. Joining us today are published scientists, award-winning scholars, and champion athletes, and they embody the realization of our wildest dreams. Dreams that actually did come true. And I assure you that they are all real. They're here in the studio, sitting right in front of me. It is a pleasure and an honor to share in conversation with you 4 extraordinary who's. V. Lee is a 3-time published organic chemist and an exemplar for the Undergraduate Student Opportunities and Academic Research Program. That's a mouthful. How about USOAR for short? V, welcome to Who's in STEM.
Thanks for having me.
Grant GianGrassio, you're a biologist. You founded the Virginia Medical Review, and you're a Rhodes Scholar. Congratulations on the Rhodes Scholarship. Grant, welcome to Who's in STEM.
Thanks for having me. Super happy to be here.
Sam Goldberg is a former bike racer. I love that. More importantly, he's a published mathematician who's proved striking theorems that illustrate the extraordinary intricacies of the prime numbers. I really love that. Sam, welcome to Who's in STEM.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Alex Walsh, who hails from Nashville, Tennessee, is a computer scientist who somehow juggled it all in her 4 years. What do I mean? I'm talking about computer programs, internships as a quantitative analyst, all while competing for the UVA swim team, winning national championships, a silver medal at the Olympics, and earning the title of world champion to boot. Alex, welcome to Who's in STEM.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
As this is a very special episode, I want to do something a little bit different today. I would like our student producers to host our guests today. So first we have Reeya Verma. She is a second year. She's one of my longtime student producers for Who's in STEM. As I said, she's an Eccles Scholar and a Jefferson Scholar, and she will be conversing with V and Grant. Reeya, mic is yours.
Grant, thanks for joining us. So your research on diarrheal diseases spans from UVA to Bangladesh, making waves globally. So why don't you lead us through your journey?
Sure. So I actually didn't start out in, we call them enteric pathogens, so like diseases that you get from maybe contaminated food or water, end up impacting like your gut health. I was more interested in respiratory diseases because a lot of this passion for infectious disease started during COVID, and I was volunteering as an EMT in Charlottesville for my first year at UVA, and most of the patients I was caring for were people who were afflicted by COVID-19, and I kind of saw firsthand how that frontline healthcare response was so important in tackling an infectious disease, even in a healthcare system like the US, which we would consider to be like more advanced, more robust, but is still susceptible to new viruses, pandemics, and the like. And I started wanting to research these diseases instead of just caring for them clinically. And I found a laboratory in the ID department at UVA under Dr. William Petrie, who was studying COVID at the time, also studies Clostridium difficile, which is like a hospital-acquired infection. And eventually, I transitioned to my main thesis work, which is on something called cryptosporidiosis. And that is an enteric pathogen that children in places like Bangladesh, where I do a lot of my work, they contracted from like contaminated water supplies, and there's no vaccine, there's no therapeutics for it. So it's a very sad situation all around because of the age group that it's impacting and the lack of a kind of treatment for it. So what we work on in my lab currently is trying to determine whether any differences in human genetics can influence how susceptible people are to this disease, and that could identify some new drug targets for us. So that was what I have focused a lot of my research work on, and I was recently traveling to Bangladesh in March to partner up with the scientists we work with at the International Center for Diarrheal Disease Research.
Incredible. Tell us a little bit more about Bangladesh and what that was like.
I should mention that kind of a not tangential but integrated interest of mine in science is language study. I study like French, Spanish, and more recently Bengali, which is what they speak in Bangladesh. And I used to think, because my mom is a French teacher, that this interest in languages was something that would be alongside my work as maybe a clinician in the future, that it would be helpful to be a doctor who, for example, could work with Spanish-speaking patients in the US. And I realized more and more that languages like French, Spanish, and Bengali, which help you access formerly colonized regions of the world where a lot of low and middle income countries exist, are really key to equitable healthcare, because we shouldn't place the burden on everybody else to learn English to work in science, but we want to have like mutual respect and keep everyone on equal footing. So I've become very invested in the language and the culture of Bangladesh. I've undertaken a qualitative research project where we're going to interview mothers of children in our study cohorts and find out maybe how we could better meet their needs in healthcare. And I've just become very excited about these international partnerships that UVA has allowed me to pursue.
Wow. Your work has garnered lots of attention, and it's clear that your impact has not been limited to Charlottesville. But you've carved a path here at UVA as well. One of those being one that combines science communication and hands-on research. So tell us a little bit more about the Virginia Medical Review.
Of course. So I'm very excited to share about the Virginia Medical Review, which you can visit at vamedreview.org. And I'd like to point out that our primary mission is to make developments in science and medicine very accessible to audiences who don't have a technical background. So what am I talking about? People who don't, work specifically in a discrete field where the science is getting talked about and published in journals with a lot of complex information that maybe isn't necessary to getting the big picture. And we want to be able to deliver that in a very easy online format to student readers, to anybody in the community who's interested, and also to sort of cultivate STEM communication on the side of those who are doing the science or doing the medical and narrative journalism about it. So we try and emphasize very plain language communication of maybe a new scientific article or a new invention that's been developed, and it's something of like a mix between the Oculus, which is UVA's student undergrad publication for science articles, and maybe something like the Cavalier Daily, where you have like news articles on health or science, and we're looking to bridge the gap.
Thank you, Grant. Now, you're heading to Oxford with a prestigious Rhodes Scholarship to continue studying genomics. So, Grant, what's next for your research, and how will it grow from your UVA roots?
Most of my research at UVA currently focuses on genetic determinants of disease susceptibility, which I think is an interesting way of looking at illnesses that are primarily determined by your exposures in the environment, but might also be impacted by what your innate characteristics as a human being are, right, in your genetic code. And I'm going to continue that work at Oxford through a lab that looks at how genetic mutations might influence vaccine response. And that's kind of a pioneering idea as well, that not only might your immune susceptibility be influenced by your genetics, but also that particular formulations of vaccines might be better tailored to people with particular genetic traits. And while we talk about precision medicine a lot at the individual level, it's also fascinating to think about it in a population kind of framework.
That's very exciting, Grant. Beyond being a scholar, you also play in the jazz band, you're a firefighter, and as mentioned earlier, you're also trilingual. You're a man of many talents. How do these blend into your views on maybe medicine, community service, and life?
I think the most important thing I've learned from all those experiences that's carried heavily into my research work has been adaptability. So whether it's improvising in jazz, being ready to make mistakes when you're speaking a new language, or responding to a dynamic like emergency situation, it's all about being able to think on your feet, be dynamic, and figure out what the next best steps are based on the situation you have in front of you. And in the lab where you have to persevere a lot, I've spent years doing a lot of failed experiments, getting my feet wet with research at first and kind of like earning my stripes. Those lessons have really helped me persevere and accomplish what I've been able to.
Thank you, Grant. That was wonderful. And now it's a pleasure to introduce V. Lee. Thanks for being here, V. You're pushing the boundaries of inorganic chemistry, and it sounds like UVA has been a crucial part of that ride. So share with us your journey and highlights.
Thanks so much for having me. Well, to begin my chemistry journey, I really started in high school. I had an amazing high school teacher who really taught us kind of in the college standard. And he kind of like developed a big passion for me. He worked with me very closely. And that's where a lot of my passions began. And so when I came into college, I knew that's what I wanted to pursue. Unfortunately, my first year was also COVID year, so there wasn't a lot going on. I had known that I wanted to go into research, and so I had started looking at different professors to see if any labs had interest to me. But even through reaching out, it was really hard for me to find something that either stuck out to me, or whenever I reached out to professors, it was hard for me to find responses just because COVID was such an interesting time for all of us, right? Thankfully, in the summer, right before my second year, I had found this amazing program called USOAR, which is a program for students who have never had any research experience before and are work study eligible. And so through that, I had applied, and it's an application-based program. You apply to get in, and then you list out your top research topics that you're interested in. And for me, mine were actually all medicinal science-based, actually all bio-based. I unfortunately did not get my first top 3 choices, but my professor had seen my application through USOAR and had reached out to me to see if I wanted to join his inorganic group. And I never knew that is something that I wanted to do. I originally was pre-med. That's where I wanted to go. But after joining my inorganic lab, I had so much experience in a wet lab that I really loved, that I didn't realize at first, like working with the chemicals that I did, learning the synthetic techniques, like working with the Schlenk line, glove box, all of that. It was just a really phenomenal time. And I had 2 amazing grad mentors where I worked with organic scaffolds and creating borapinium and borafluoranium cations, which is where the majority of my research lies in. With my first lab experience, I worked with my mentor Caleb, working with creating organic scaffolds and borafluoranium cations. In doing so, we were looking at the thermochromic properties of these molecules. Basically, this means that it changes color depending on temperature, and we thought that this would be really cool in applications like medicine or food. For example, a lot of the COVID vaccines would degrade at high temperatures, and so some of the overarching reaches that we wanted to do with our project were to use these thermochromic compounds to fine-tune them at certain temperatures. So whenever they go above a certain temperature, they would change color. So we would have a visual indicator that there has been a change and that this product is now unusable. We thought that project was really cool, and that's what I worked on for the entirety of my first year. Going into my second year, I changed to a different project. In this, I worked with dicationic borapiniums, and I worked with doing the organic scaffolding and creating the actual cations. With these compounds, they were very air sensitive, water sensitive, so we had to use a glove box, which, if you don't know what a glove box is, it's like this device in which you have an argon field. So there is no water or air within the glove box, any oxygen that could react poorly with the compounds. Because compounds like these, they can either degrade or explode. We never know which one. So we were working with those. And with this project, it was mainly a reactivity project. In terms of these, we're looking for applications with OLEDs and possible future technological advancements in terms of like lighting, television, things like that. That was the main kind of pushing point for this project. And then doing so, I worked with a lot of techniques such as fluoroscopy and fluorescence lifetime, quantum yield, things like that, which then brought me into working with a professor at Kennesaw to do a collaboration with them as well.
This is exciting stuff, V. So it seems like every day in the lab is filled with new challenges and discoveries for you. I'm curious to know, what sparks your curiosity each day in the lab?
For me, it genuinely is like the act of creating something new. I feel like that is so rare, and the fact that I'm able to be in a lab where some of our projects just come about through a random mistake or a random mixture of things, and the fact that I know that I'm creating something that no one else has created before, like, is what really interests me about being in lab. I love the process. It's very procedural. And then aside from all of that, just like the implications of my creations could create a benefit in society later in the future. Because as I said previously, I wanted to be pre-med. Unfortunately, that did not work out, but I'm happy to be where I am now. And the kind of what I want to do in the future is medicinal chemistry. So being able to create like these medications that could have such overarching effects for the world is like what really pushes me to like be in lab every day.
Well, Reeya, that's two great guests you picked there. Grant, thank you. V, thank you. It's really humbling to hear the research that you're doing. It's very high level, it's impactful. And I mean, Grant, firefighter, I mean, yeah, it's crazy. So moving right along, it's a pleasure to introduce Catherine Cossaboom. She's a third-year Eccles Scholar and Jefferson Scholar, and she will be joined by Sam Goldberg in conversation. Mic is yours, Catherine.
So Sam, you've had quite a mathematical journey at UVA, from taking graduate level coursework to publishing original research to defending a thesis on arithmetic quantum chaos. So can you briefly tell us about one of your papers and its impact on the field?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So I'll talk about a paper I co-authored at the UVA RU number 3 in the summer of 2023. So we wrote a paper on some of the intricate patterns in prime numbers. And this paper has recently been accepted for publication, and in fact published in the Journal of Number Theory. The study of prime numbers is a very sophisticated area of mathematics. It's been studied for hundreds of years. Now, oftentimes, statements involving the properties of prime numbers can appear to be very simple, but the techniques for studying prime numbers are actually very, very, very intricate. And so we proved a rather remarkable theorem that I don't think any of us at the RU expected we would be able to prove prior to attending the RU, involving the statistical distribution of primes as solutions to certain equations, let's say. And this work in particular built upon the work of famous Fields medalist mathematicians such as Terence Tao and James Maynard. This work also related to the so-called Langlands program, which is a very deep area of mathematics. And I had a really fascinating and inspiring experience working on this problem in paper.
When you were younger, you wanted to be a competitive cyclist. Can you tell us how your time biking influences your approach to mathematics?
Yeah, certainly. So one thing that stands out to me as cycling relates to mathematics, in particular how I go about doing both, is that I've really had to learn how to sit with a singular idea or concept for a very long time, and not just in a way where you're constantly working on the same project, moving from task to task, but just sitting on one singular task for a very long period of time, whether it's a bicycle seat or a mathematical concept is sort of how I sort of tie the two together. As a cyclist, even coming down here to Charlottesville to ride through the mountains, just sitting, riding along the road, it feels to me often a lot like how how it feels to stare at a mathematical paper, just one page for hours on end, trying to really grasp what's going on. And to me, those are two skills that I've really learned to refine.
Mm-hmm. So can you tell us about a specific moment during your research that significantly changed your perspective on math?
Yeah, so last summer, towards the end of the program, we had a mentor, Jesse Thorner, who I really would ask a lot of questions to try to get a better idea of what the big picture was behind our work. As I mentioned, studying prime numbers is rather intricate business. And I was asking our mentor what exactly was going on in the background. Why could we study the prime numbers with certain methods? And what was this really hinting at? maybe because I wanted to be able to prove more cool theorems, or maybe because I was just curious. I'm not too sure at the time what my motivation was. But Jesse had a really fascinating answer, and I remember this one time. So every day in the afternoon, we would have tea time where we'd all gather from the RU and just eat and talk about math and just have a good time. And I remember my cohort and I, we all came around Jesse when I was asking him this one question about how exactly do we study these properties of the primes? And he said this answer that has forever changed my life. It really set into motion what I did this past year, which is that it's not about the prime numbers. It's about the representation theory. And not to get into the technical details of what that means, but it's really set me on a path, I would say, and it's going to take me far, I hope. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So beyond learning math yourself, you also enjoy sharing it with others. So as a mentor to younger undergrads, what key piece of advice do you find yourself repeatedly offering to newcomers?
Yeah, so it's two things. The first is to talk to people, whether it's other undergraduates, graduate students who are also in the department, and faculty. For me, so much of what I have learned is really building upon the shoulders of giants, those who I know personally and those who I learn about just through reading. And I've found that it's very important to be able to contextualize myself in the broader mathematical community. It may seem like something that is a very solo endeavor, and sometimes it is, but it's really important to be able to talk to others. The second thing I would say is to recognize that mathematics, yes, it is a very personal endeavor, and so you have to make it your own and find a way to tell your own mathematical story. This has been very important to me, and the things that matter the most to me are really the things that glue together my mathematical story over time. And I can look back 4 years and see how things I was thinking about back then connect to now. And I think it's important for everyone to think about how can they tell their own mathematical story.
So in the fall, you will be starting a PhD at Berkeley. What excites you the most about taking this next step?
What excites me most about taking this next step is that I will be going somewhere completely new and learning things that are, well, not completely new, but rather new. I think I'll be going outside my comfort zone quite a bit, but I'm really, really excited to meet lots of new faculty at UC Berkeley. It's a very large department. To meet my cohort, there are going to be many graduate students there who have already had the chance to meet at the open house events. And I think it'll be a really thrilling 4 years, at least 4 years.
Amazing. Thank you so much for talking to me.
Well, thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Sam. Now moving on to our last guest, it's a pleasure to introduce a new who. She transferred recently here to the University of Virginia, Claire Curzan, and she will have in conversation a teammate, Alex Walsh, graduating in computer science and decorated athlete.
Alex, to understate it, you have had an exceptional career here at UVA. Not only have you won a silver medal in the 200 individual medley at the Tokyo Olympics, but you've also won multiple World Championship medals, including a gold in the 200 IM as well 2 years ago. Not to mention, while doing all of this, you've balanced being a student athlete and majoring in computer science. First of all, could you just start off by telling a little bit about your international experiences for Team USA?
Yeah, well, it's so great, Claire, to see you outside of the pool. I've had the great opportunity to represent Team USA several times throughout the past 3 years, just at the highest stage in the world of swimming. Most notably, I competed at the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games that was rescheduled to 2021 because of COVID-19. And I can see that has affected all of us so clearly as fourth years at UVA. But really, it's hard to put into words what that experience was. And I think that myself and my other teammates in Tokyo had a very different experience than other Olympians because of the pandemic. But regardless, pandemic or not, being able to compete for your country and learning how to deal with the weight and stress of competing for your country has been something that I think has made me into a better person and has pushed my limits both mentally and physically. But yes, I did win a silver medal alongside my other teammate, our teammate, Kate Douglas. She won bronze. And I think that kickstarted a lot of opportunities for me in the pool, out of the pool, in terms of NIL opportunities, and also, as we'll get into later, the opportunity that I had to work with QIM. But yeah, it's been a great honor, and I'm looking forward to this summer, 2024.
That's incredible, and you are incredible. But how did you manage to balance both training and academics, both at such elite levels?
Well, I won't lie, I'm not perfect at it, and it has definitely taken me 4 years at least to be able to manage both of these passions that I have in my life. I will say, as a first and second year, I think taking core curriculum classes that are generally less specific. It was more of a run of the mill, me trying to get my work done, me trying to make my way up to these higher classes where I knew I wanted to pursue the more specific industries and just topics in computer science. But I will say, as a third and fourth year, being able to study databases and software testing, those are two fields that I feel really passionate about. That makes me excited to come home from the pool and start working on these projects. It's kind of funny, because I think a lot of people are surprised when I say that I'm a computer science major, but I really have found that I think my life in swimming and computer science intersect on a lot of different points. So for me, it's all about just finding what I'm most passionate about and then dedicating the time that I feel that I need to allocate both in the pool and also on my computer.
Speaking of working on your computer, you were even able to intern for QIM, which is an acronym for Quantitative Investment Management, as a data analyst right before you went to Worlds in Fukuoka, Japan last summer. How was that experience? Can you tell us about it?
It was awesome, and I really cannot be more grateful for Michael Geismar and Sean Jordan, who reached out to me and let me know that there was a position open at QIM, and through the connection that they have with the athletic department, they seemed like I was a good fit, so I had the opportunity to interview, and then I got the internship. And yeah, it was definitely an interesting experience because I had never had to kind of work on swimming and also work in the same day as thoroughly as I did over last summer. But I just feel like this opportunity has given me so much insight into what I want to do and what I want to accomplish. After I stopped swimming, when I move into my professional career, I was able to work with both the traders and also the database teams, working on stored procedures and then converting those stored procedures into applications that other employees would be able to use just to look at stock market data and things. I mean, really, I had not a whole lot of knowledge about how the stock market even worked because not one of my huge interests, but I think now moving forward it definitely is, because I've seen how firsthand how computer science and all these different coding techniques can be used to be applied like in every single industry. It's just been awesome.
Well, I can't wait to keep watching you as your career progresses, both athletically, since you just declared a fifth year to swim on the swim team again for UVA, and also professionally as you continue to strive towards bigger and better things. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you, Alex. It's been kind of a long episode. I hope everyone that's listening has enjoyed it. These are four truly extraordinary, real, living people, by the way. But before we conclude this episode, I feel the need to ask two quick questions of all of our guests. They say it takes a village to raise a person. And for me personally, I owe many debts. My family, Professors Paul Sally and Basil Gordon, who were very important to me and might not be names that are important to you, but really forged who I became. And so for our four guests, this is your Oscars moment. Your Who's in STEM Oscars moment. Quickly, who would you like to thank here and now for everyone to hear? Grant.
I'd like to thank those who've mentored me as a young scientist, including my PI, Dr. Chelsea Marie, her research scientist, Dr. Ninj Jan, Dr. William Petrie, and my thesis advisor, Dr. Michael Timko, as well as my parents and my family.
Grant, great. V, your Oscars moment.
I'd really like to thank my PI, Professor Robert Gilliard, for giving me all of these opportunities, as well as my lab mentor, Kim, who has been alongside me for my entire journey. And obviously a special thank you to my mom and my partner who has been with me this entire time.
Great. Sam, your Oscars moment.
So I would first like to thank my undergraduate thesis advisor, Peter Humphreys, for all that he's done for me. I would also like to thank Dr. Ono for running the 2023 UVA number 3, and for just generally training me as an aspiring mathematician. I would also like to thank my family, my friends, and my partner for all of their support for me as well.
Well, you're welcome, Sam. And Alex, your Oscars moment.
I would like to thank all of my teammates here at UVA Swimming and Diving, and also my head coach, Todd DeSorbo, for pushing me in the pool, and also Professor Upsor and Prof. Montrepog, who has showed me what I want to do after I stop swimming and pursue my professional career, and of course, my sister and my parents.
Wonderful. Now, last question. A graduation is something like an ending, but it's also very much a beginning. So, last question. What's next for each of you? Grant, what's next for you?
In October, I'll be heading to Oxford to complete my master's in genomics, and afterward, I'll be attending medical school at NYU.
Go Grant, Rhodes Scholar. V, what's next for you?
I'm happy to start at the University of Pennsylvania in the chemistry department next fall as a Fontaine Fellow.
Congratulations. Go V. Sam.
So first this summer, I will be traveling to Europe to go backpacking and take a little break. And then in the fall, I will be starting as a PhD student at UC Berkeley.
Great. Go Sam. Alex, what's next for you?
I'm taking a 5th year here at UVA to continue competing collegiately and also enrolling in the certificate program of cybersecurity management.
And we hope the Olympic Games.
And hopefully the Olympic Games.
So thank you, V, Grant, Sam, Alex. It's kind of an understatement to say that you're shining examples of President Ryan's motto to be great and good in all that we do. So on behalf of the UVA community, we offer you Godspeed for your journey and wahoo. I'm Ken Ono, STEM advisor to the provost, Marvin Rosenblum, professor of mathematics, and you've been listening to Who's in STEM.
Who's in STEM is a production of WTJU 91.1 FM and the Office of the Provost at the University of Virginia. Who's in STEM is produced by Claire Curzan, Catherine Cossaboom, Reeya Verma, Mary Garner-McGee, and Ariane Ballou, and Ben Larson. Our music is composed and performed by Robert Schneider and John Ferguson of Apples and Stereo. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Listen and subscribe to Who's in STEM on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be back soon with another conversation about scientific and technological innovation at the University of Virginia.